Greetings fellow adults, Tino here. When I started working my first job, I was incredibly excited to update my LinkedIn profile. I mean, this is my first permanent job after graduation as a foreigner. However, when it came time to actually put the job title, I was a bit conflicted. See, cloud support graduate didn't really sound that cool, hey? I also couldn't call myself a cloud support engineer because that's actually a position people in my company hold, and that'll be a bit rude. So instead, I used a more generic term, or at least I thought it was a more generic term, and that is cloud engineer. Yeah, pretty cool, isn't it? How did I come up with this term? Well, it's pretty simple. I work with the cloud, so there's the cloud part, and I wanted to sound more professional and, you know, just like a cool person, and most importantly, I wanted to sound more important and more skilled than I actually was. So I slapped the term engineer onto it, and there you go, cloud engineer. And that is the first reason why people use the term engineer, is to sound a lot more important and more skilled than they actually are. It's a form of self-aggrandizement. When people hear the term engineer, they associate that with a highly skilled, highly professional person, and depending on what field you're in, a highly skilled professional with an engineering degree. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing if that's actually what you are. But why do people in tech specifically use that word? Quite a lot, actually. I mean, we've always associated the word engineer with, like, you know, roads and engines and stuff, but not people who sit at the desk and, you know, spend their whole day in a Linux terminal, for example. Sometimes it makes sense. I mean, software engineer, cloud engineer, but sometimes, hey, have you heard some of these job titles though? Well, let's start with the meaning behind the word itself. The term engineer originates from Middle English, which is a very old form of English, back in the days of Shakespeare. Sir Isaac Newton. The word engineer back in the day was a term used for somebody who builds military siege weapons, or what they used to call back in the day, engines. During that same period, the term was also used to describe an artificer, or somebody who invents stuff, or like, you know, like a craftsman. Over the years, more variations and branches of engineering were introduced. For example, when the building of bridges and roads became a thing, they called that civil engineering. When electricity became a thing, they called that electrical engineering. When people started messing around with people's genes, they called that genetic engineering. As time went on, an engineer basically became somebody who designs, builds, and maintains roads, engines, structures. Now, how would you describe somebody who designs, builds, and maintains software? A software engineer. IT is a very massive field. I spoke about all the different careers you can take in IT in a previous video, so make sure to check that one out if you're interested. But basically, for each different type of branch in IT, you have engineers in those things. If you have a complex network, you're gonna need somebody to design, build, and maintain the network. What do you call such a person? A network engineer. It makes sense, right? Makes sense to me. Unfortunately, not to everyone. See, the term engineer in most fields that it's actually used, like engineering and the built environment, that term is reserved for people who actually go to university, study an engineering degree, and then work in the engineering field, okay? So to a lot of people, the term engineer is reserved for people with an engineering degree. That is very wrong. There are people who literally study engineering for clout, for the clout of being called an engineer when they graduate. And my God, they love calling themselves that. Not always because they actually enjoy it, but because I'm an engineer. You get to say things like, trust me, I'm an engineer. Not necessarily because they enjoy the engineering part of their job, but because of the clout, because of the higher social status they'll have for being called an engineer. These people tend to be very elitist when it comes to using this term, and yeah, you know, I mean, if you've come across such people, you know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, IT is a very different field. Unlike engineering, where you have to study the degree to become an engineer and work in that field, in IT, you don't have to. You can literally flourish throughout your whole career and not have an IT degree. You do not need a networking degree to flourish as a networking engineer. Of course, it will help a lot to go to school and do networking stuff, but IT is the kind of field where if you can show what you can do, we do not need to see your qualifications, because I mean, we all know that qualifications usually don't mean much, eh? Anyways, back to my story. At the time when I updated my LinkedIn profile, I didn't really find any problem with that. It was, yeah, I mean, I'm an engineer, I'm a cloud engineer. It was pretty cool. But as I started growing more into this new career of mine, I started feeling very cringy about that LinkedIn title, eh? I think I got over the excitement of starting a new job. I started thinking, why am I calling myself this? Why am I looking for outside validation for what I am? I have a job I thoroughly enjoy. I'm happy, I'm satisfied, the job treats me very well. Why, after all that, why do I still care what people think about me when it comes to my job? It makes no sense if you think about it. So I soon changed my title to what it was supposed to be, Cloud Support Graduate. I don't know why I wasn't proud of that. Looking back, I really shouldn't, like, oh man, I feel so dumb for doing that. A few months later, I decided to get involved with hiring activities within the company. You know, going to conventions, going to universities, interviewing candidates, that kind of thing. And I soon realized that people use this term engineer to exaggerate their abilities. And that is not a good thing. That will come back to bite you. When you exaggerate your abilities, you are setting a standard. You are setting expectations that you can't meet. This will work very well if you're just trying to, you know, to impress a girl on the street. But for somebody in the same space as you are, or even worse, somebody who's trying to hire you, it won't end well, eh? It will end badly because you can't meet those expectations that you've set for yourself. My opinion on this is very similar to my opinion on degrees in general. You can check out that video after this one. Having a degree does not mean that you automatically have the knowledge that comes with that degree. Same thing, having a title doesn't mean shit. It doesn't actually prove that you are at a certain level or you understand something any better, or you know, whatever. However, there are exceptions. There are protected titles like a professional engineer, a certified engineer, a chartered engineer, you know, those kind of things. So unless you fall into that bracket that can use those protected titles, you cannot and you should not assume or infer or make any judgments on somebody's skills, professionalism and abilities based on their title or their degree. If you think about it, it's kind of dumb. That's the end of my rant. I would love to hear your experience with the use of this term engineer. I'm sure you have some interesting stories if you've been in the industry. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to let me and YouTube know that you did by clicking the like button and subscribe to the channel. And before you leave, make sure to check out this video here. You should be very confident you will like that one. If you watched that one, maybe check out this one here or this playlist. If you've watched all this content, maybe subscribe. Click here to subscribe and I'll see you next time.